This rarely happens. A client was one step away from moving forward with accessible.org, and then they elected to go with another provider. On the screen with me is the email where everything turned. So I'm going to read through it now. Hello, Kris. We are still working on finalizing our decision, and a few more questions have come up. You may have discussed with uh, this is the primary contact's name. I've redacted it. You may have discussed with contact already, so I apologize if this is repeated information, but could you please let me know if your testing methodology involves only automated testing or if you also use manual testers? If you do use manual testers, are they native assistive technology users? From the client services proposal document you sent us, it looks like manual testing is not included in your services, but I wanted to make sure this was the case. And then on the screen, I have emphasized the involves only automated testing language from the email. Okay, so if you've watched this channel, you know I am anti-scan. In fact, we can see this. I've searched for manual audits accessibility in Google. Right below the sponsored results is an accessible.org blog post. Manual is the only kind of accessibility audit. Also, if we look in the YouTube search results, we have a video emphasizing manual audits are the only kind of accessibility audits. And then it continues automated quote unquote testing is a scan. And what is especially curious about the email is if we look at the accessible.org proposal, templated in the proposal is our audit process. And so if you read through the proposal, there is no ambiguity that our audits are fully manual. We only use a scan to make sure that there are no issues that are correctly flagged by a scan that aren't included in our audit. But this is entirely a manual process where we are manually finding and identifying accessibility issues. And so in this on the snippet from the accessible.org proposal, we have the environments, desktop and mobile, and this is sets out our audit process. And then just below that, we can see 3 bullet points under evaluation methodologies: screen reader testing, keyboard only interaction, and code inspection. And it continues on. And I didn't the Word document cuts off, but this is just to show that if he had read through the proposal, which he says he does, then it's clear that this is not a scam. So one of my theories is that our pricing was so far below the other quotes that he received from other digital accessibility companies that he may have thought it was just a scam. When the fact is that we just charge based on the amount of work that's involved. It doesn't matter who the client is. And in this case, the application that was in question was fairly easy and straightforward. So it wasn't going to take us as much time. And I think their quote came in at around $1,000, or maybe even just under $1,000. And then there were services. There was, I think they wanted a VPAT service, so there was that, and then there was also, I think, 2 hours for validation. This is all from just recalling this project. I didn't relook at the actual proposal, but I did want to show you this email because this is something that people are wondering about. But reading through the email, it doesn't really make sense, because after the email I responded and I let him know what I'm telling you now. No, in fact, we are 100% committed to making sure this is a full, comprehensive manual evaluation where we are meticulously and thoroughly going through your digital asset and identifying accessibility issues against, I think here it was the WCAG 2.1 AA standard. So this would all be identified, and if user testing was desired, then we can also provide user testing where we have a professional who is blind or visually impaired going through the digital asset and identifying any issues that they come across in their experience. So this was all possible, and reading from the email, it doesn't seem like this wasn't the primary contact. So when I was going back and forth with the primary contact, we were almost to the point where they were ready to make a purchase because we had already gone through so many steps, which there aren't that many, but scoping, proposal, MNDA, and then also just some other follow-up questions talking about the process that's involved. So there were several emails going back and forth. So there really was only the decision to be made. But when the language, when you get the language from the client services proposal document you sent us, it looks like manual testing is not included in your services. It's actually quite the opposite. It looks like it is concentrated manually. And I've tabbed back now to the screenshot. So it may have just been a situation where this person was, sometimes what will happen is clients will have a primary contact, and then there will be a procurement agent that comes in and they review the transaction. And so it's not just the primary contact, it's also that person. And this person may have just not wanted to go with us. Maybe, I think I mentioned this before, but it could have been that the other company's quotes were so much higher that he thought they would only be receiving a scan, which of course is we would never do that. We would never do that because it's just that's not. You can go scan a web asset right now for free, so there's no reason to go through us for a scan. We don't sell scans. It's just not something that provides value to clients. So it's just not something I offer. So and beyond that, I'm anti-scan. I think it's not the fact. It's not that scans can't help in certain circumstances, just that they're commonly what their capability is commonly overinflated and it's exaggerated, and in some people's minds they think that a scan is if they get 100% score or zero errors that they've made their website ADA compliant, etc. And obviously that's not the case. But this was interesting. And plus, like in my reply to the person who wrote back, I explained all of this. I explained how thorough we are and how much we insist upon manual. And every one of my contractors knows. I've said this to each of them multiple times. Quality is the most important thing. There are a lot of things that are important, but by far the most important is quality. I would rather be late on a deliverable than sacrifice on quality. And all of my contractors know this. And part of that quality is that we audit the right way. We audit meticulously. We are detailed. We don't overlook anything. So it would never be a scan. And to me, when I read this email, I think that this person involved in the sales process, they just wanted someone else, because otherwise, if he had read through the proposal, which reading through the email, it makes it sound like he really wants to be exhaustive. But if you look through the proposal, this snippet and it continues on, our proposal is very detailed, and it sets out everything that the client can expect, so the client knows exactly what to expect when they're working with accessible.org. So the fact that he says, let's read that again. From the client services proposal document you sent us, it looks like manual testing is not included in your services. I mean, obviously that's not the case. I'll tab to the audit snippet here. Obviously that's not the case. And nowhere I go to great links to make sure that it's very detailed, that we do in fact go approach audits the right way, and that we are using various manual methodologies to evaluate, and we are grading against the web content accessibility guidelines. And I set out what version, the environments. Here you can see if we're using desktop environment. We always use desktop is usually the base, but it's not always desktop. But I set out what is involved, what is included with desktop, what is included with mobile. So Everything is here. There's no way that if someone read through this document, they would think they were only getting a scan back. My only theory there is that the price was so much lower relative to other companies that the buyer may have thought something was amiss. But of course, I explained this in the reply, and they still elected to go with someone else. So it happens every now and then, very rarely, especially when we've gone this far into the purchasing process to ordering an audit. And in this case, I think a VPAT was also involved. So ordering an audit, VPAT services, and then validation. But the way I've set up accessible.org is to make it obvious. Like it's like, why would you go with anyone else given that quick turnaround times, competitive pricing, everything is transparent. The process is laid out. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask those questions. I'm very responsive. Everything is there to make it so that accessibility is as easy as possible. Everything's as easy to understand as possible. We simplify the process. We do all of the hard work, and I make sure that we do it the right way. And so everything is there for accessible.org to be the obvious choice. In this case, I think this person just wanted to go with someone else, and I don't think it, judging by the email and the email not being able to reconcile um, with the proposal document, I think there was something else that is in play. But in case you're watching this and you're wondering, does accessible.org provide audits that are manual? Yes, manual is implicit in audit. The audits are conducted the exact right way. Everything is done. We identify all of the accessibility issues. The experts that are auditing are technical accessibility experts. We can also offer user testing in case you do want the native screen reader users. Our user testers are professionals who are blind or visually impaired using assistive technology as they go through your digital asset and relay their experience. So everything is done the right way. But I thought this was a good email to bring up and really emphasize that we do everything the right way. So I will include a link to our contact page in the description. And if you have any questions about an audit, you are more than welcome to reach out to me.